It's Tom Myers, Superintendent of Bellevue Community School District in Bellevue, Iowa, coming to you with this month's Comet highlights from the board meeting on Monday evening. Going to share a few things with you. Remember that some of this information is actually online on our Bellevue website at www.bellevue.k12.ia.us. If you click under district and go to superintendent, you'll find the entire written comment highlights, about 20 some pages there if you want to meander through and find those. But just some upcoming events want to let you know about. Also some concerts coming up this spring yet in May 13th is a middle school, high school vocal concert, and that's at 7 o'clock. The board meeting that night, that's our regular board meeting night, we have moved that time up to 5:30. The middle school, high school band concert is May 14th, and then the elementary concert is May 15th. We also have senior awards night on Wednesday, May 22nd. The Rock at the Lock, sponsored by our Bellevue Big program, is also going to be May 24th. And that's also when we have the Beyond the Blue recognition evening, and I'll share a little bit about that later on in the notes. Some different things here, some resignations. We had one of our code cheerleading sponsors, Elise Marie Colors, resign that position. We also had two teaching positions resign. Micah Klinker, preschool teacher, is actually going to Florida with her husband, who has been placed on there for an internship. And then Erin Fisher, our middle school, high school literacy teacher, along with some other duties, is also resigning. And then Rick Kozel, a middle school baseball coach, will be hired this year, as it has been hired by the board to serve as middle school baseball coach. For that's more our current 6th and 7th graders. And then a change in positions. Chet Kinake, head football coach, that way, is actually going to be sharing the head coaching duties with Matt Yeager. So there will be co-head coaches this upcoming school year for the fall of 2019. We believe this will work very well. Matt does a lot of things already with Mr. Kinake. So between Mr. Kinake and Mr. Yeager and the rest of the staff, it would be once again a very successful year. We did have a public meeting on a public hearing on the budget. Excuse me, no one spoke at that time. One thing to remember here is we had a decrease of 38 cents in our tax rate that way. It is 11.78168. Online, you can see a bunch of different schools along with our conference schools. There's probably about 20 different schools listed, 15 to 20 different schools listed. We are one of the lowest tax rates for school districts in eastern Iowa and in this area. These funds are really used for to provide programs for our students, the programming and staffing for our students and their learning. They're used for transportation, energy cost, things like that way. There's more information in the notes you can look at that way, but we are in solid financial standing as a district right now with where we're at. Very happy about that way. Had an increase in enrollment of 16 students this year, which is a significant increase for the size of our district that way. After that, we had a public hearing for the school calendar that was also approved, and some things with the school calendar that way, some dates, and it's online as well, and we'll have a separate site for that as well. But start date will be Friday, August 23rd. We return from winter break on Thursday, January 2nd. Ending school with no snow days or anything like that on Wednesday, May 27th. That does give us 2 days in that week, that Thursday and Friday, for 2 makeup days. We also have 2 potential snow dates in there as well. If needed, we'll decide at that time, just so you kind of know. But I feel it's a valid calendar. I feel starting on that Friday, the 23rd, it's the first day we can start in the state of Iowa. We feel that Friday's a good day just to get in routine, get to all the classes, go through the routines, and figure out where things are at that first day, and then come back. So we did do a survey on that, and the feelings were mixed that way. It was right around the middle for starting the 23rd or the 26th on that Monday. Chose the 23rd based on what I just talked about that way. Excuse me. We had a comic curriculum presentation by our Bellevue Big students that way. Elizabeth Freiberger, Nicole Kelchin, Kaylee Miller, and Ashley Nemmers. Talk about the therapy dog from Canine Comfort. Canine Comfort is actually donating the dog. The Bellevue Big program has raised funds for training for the dog. Mr. Bakey, our art teacher, K-12, or mainly at the high school middle school, high school building, will be the owner of the dog, but there will also be 12 other handlers within the district that way. Feel very positive about this therapy dog for our students that way. Bellevue Community School District also facilities we talked about that way. Talked about the elementary referendum. We're just listening to community members. What do we need to look at in the future to help us gain more support for our district and for our students in their learning? And looking at our current elementary, what do we need to do to gain more support to to be successful in a referendum bid. So we will look at that in the future as well. Summer projects that way, we approved some of those last meeting. We also are looking at a used school lunch van that way, a different school lunch van for us. The one we have right now is struggling, so we'll be looking at that. We also have Beyond the Blue recipients that way. They were approved. And that's basically what people have done in the past. Since they graduated, what have they done? Once again, when you look at Beyond the Blue, it's not how you did in high school, but what have you done since you left the Bellevue Community School District? And those recipients this year were Mark Felderman from the class of 1977, Lori Hinkey Martins from the class of 1997, and then Max Reed from the class of 1956. We actually had 8 individuals nominated. We chose those 3. A committee of about 12 of us did. Those are community members involved in the selection. There's a nomination process. If you want nomination forms, there are some of those on our website, or you can stop by the school and pick one up, or talk to me and I can get you one. Call out this school that way. So that recognition will be May 24th, Friday, May 24th, day before graduation. We will also recognize them at graduation on the 25th, but just want to let you know we will also have a Beyond the Blue recognition evening down at the Art Gallery in town next to some other places downtown. So you can look at that way. We encourage anyone to come out. It's for family, friends, relatives, community members, whoever wants to show up and just congratulate these people for their recognition. Our 3rd annual, we've had nothing but positive comments about the nomination process that we use and the entire aspect of the evening that we have. They also talk to our students during that day in school as well. Student Services, who was also approved to continue JMO LLC. That's actually Jim Ott, who provides some counseling to students that way. He's an at-risk coordinator, does some different things. And one program that he and some students are planning is the Value Up program, which will also be a parent evening for that. That's on April 24th. They're actually talking to students during the day, and then there will be a parent meeting that night at school that way. And it really talks about valuing self and others. Talks about climate, talks about self-esteem, school climate, community climate, on down the line, and really supporting other people. It's actually presented by some people with some connection to the Columbine incident several years ago. FBLA once again had multiple qualifiers to go on to National Convention. This year that's in San Antonio. The board has agreed to give up to $5,000 for those students that way. There's a whole list of students that way, but I know some first place people were Kyle Gunther was a first place national qualifier, Kaylin Sievening and Zach Rader were first place. Also have some second place, third, and fourth places, and some of those are also qualified. I'll give you a full list of who is actually going to be going in my next Believe in the Blue thing, but there's a whole list. I think I placed that on Facebook. It's also on our website under the comment highlights here that way. And Tracy Weber, our FBLA sponsor, was also nominated as Chapter Advisor of the Year. So congratulations to Mrs. Weber. The board also approved the school district's membership in the Iowa School Finance Information Services, the Iowa Association of School Boards, and the National School Board Association. We had a comment reading and reflection over some notes from the National School Board Convention, some key themes there. Sir Ken Robinson spoke that way about education today. We need to make sure there's curiosity and creativity, allow students the discovery aspect in education. It's more than a test score, whether you do well or not so well on a test. It's well beyond that, whether that's a national test, standardized test, or not. There's more to it than that. We need to make sure we're valuing the arts and the vocations that way. Children are born with a deep level of learning, as he would say. We need to really recognize we need to adapt what we're doing in school to meet the needs of the students that way. Students have curiosity, creative thinking, collaboration skills, and we depend on each other. He used the example, and maybe I've said this before, example of a farmer with agriculture. You fertilize the land, you give what the land and what the plant needs to grow. Same with kids. What do kids need to grow? We need to provide that for them that way. Chris Gaines with American School Superintendents Association talked a lot about too many years we're caught up in test scores instead of meeting the needs of each student. We need to look more at problem-based and personalized-based learning, and it looks different in each district, something we've been working on here. Johnny Taylor Jr. actually works in the White House, talked about the secret to America's future. He used the example, you need to be able to read, write, and speak. If you can do those 3 things, you will have success, but we need to offer those opportunities to students that way. And some other things you can find there, but some of those were shared by Kevin Lundeen and Janet Severing, board members as well. That way, talk about a few highlights of the legislative session that way. SAVE is coming up for discussion again this week, I believe. Talk about summer help that will be, I'll have a recommendation to the board in May for. Great Give Day is Thursday, May 9th. That's where you can give to your favorite public organization that way that is a 501c3, such as the Bellevue Schools. Prom is coming up the last weekend in April and after prom as well. I know that Jody Banowitz, Johanna Yeager, and Melissa Rader have been very involved with that. I want to thank them for all of their work that way. Comments from building principals, superintendents, and board members. Ms. Hartling Schrader discussed the new online state assessments that we're taking in grades 3 through 12 this year. Mr. Raker discussed the state Envirothon competition that our students qualified for. We talked about some sharing of programs for the career and technical education, possibly offering an electrician certificate here at the Bellevue schools that maybe Easton Valley and Maquoketa would participate in, and we may also look to get a welding certificate by going to the Maquoketa schools beyond what we can do here. Those are just some highlights of things. I want to leave you with one quick thing here. You, Your Child in School by Sir Ken Robinson. There's just a quote in here I want to read. It's really a quality book, I believe. It's designed for, I think, parents, what to look for in your school. But one thing he asked here is, what do you hope for from this huge investment of time and energy? Why are you educating your children in the first place? What do you expect that they and you will get from it? In my experience, most parents want their children to learn about the world around them, develop their natural talents and interests, and acquire the skills and knowledge they'll need to become good citizens and make a decent living. If there's one thing I would say, I think that's a pretty common thing. We want our kids to be successful. We want schools to provide them with the tools to be successful beyond the Bellevue Community School District and the world around us. So on that note, have a great one. Once again, if you ever want a copy of a book that I talk about, feel free to connect with me. Have a great one. See you next week.